Hello! We have a kitten cam going on, but she's slowly leaving the kitten cam, so how are folks doing? Are there folks here? I can't see the chat yet, so I don't know if people are here. But if you are here, write where you're at in the chat, and then we'll have it pop up on a map, so say your state or your country. Yeah, should be very exciting. Rural says beads and hair. No, actually, these are just like the most extra earrings ever, but they do kind of make it look like I have beads in my hair. I re-dyed my hair today, so now it is, because I have a big shoot next week, so I was like, I should stop having it die away. Look at that. Ooh, it found Appalachia. That's good. The donut we have today is extremely exciting in that I just really have no idea how it's going to work whatsoever. It is a... It looks like a bagel. Like, it really, 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 really looks like a bagel. Oh, we should put me full screen, I guess, away from the map. So it really looks like a bagel. Like, it has, like, cream cheese on the side, and then, like, a little chive situation there. And it's meant to look like an everything bagel, but if you look at the bottom, it is a donut. It is a donut. It's like, it's been fried. So I don't really understand what's going on with this donut. It's supposed to be a savory donut, like not a sweet donut, but it's still a donut, so it must have some kind of sweetness in it. So I have no idea what's going on with that, and we will find out. Hello, welcome from Germany. I, once again, am not entirely sure why you're awake, but I'm delighted that you are a night owl. I really think we should put the kitten cam up for at least a little bit, because she's doing some really hilarious stuff right now. Rural says, I gotta say, I'm totally not feeling this donut, and that was before I heard about the chives. Yeah, well, we'll see. I like bagels a lot, but bagels are very hard to get out here, like decent bagels. They don't exist really on the West Coast. So I'm not expecting it to taste like a good bagel. I have no idea what I actually have no expectations because I'm just very confused about it. Latitude says, I'm from Michigan still. Nice. Can you get a 2 a.m. bagel, SK? I'm very curious to know. Daniel says that it is hot AF in Portland right now, and that is true. We have really lucked out in that we have a window, not like a window, but like a rollaway portable air conditioner, and we turned it on around 10:30 this morning, like, and closed all the windows and everything, and it worked very well. Claire says you can't get bagels on the West Coast. I'd consider that reason number 2 to never move there. Fireflies are number 1, but I actually make my own bagels. Well, Claire, I hope your bagels are really good. I would say that fireflies are fabulous, but maybe not worth basing where you live around. Like, I miss them, but I don't miss them so much that, like, I would move for them. Yeah, bagels are just... it's hard to get good bagels, I feel like this side of... I think once you cross the Rockies, they start getting bad. And, you know, obviously there's nothing like a New York bagel. Like, that's a very specific bagel. I also found bagels really lacking in London. And I was very hopeful because I was told, like, this is the best bagel store. Go to this bagel store. And it's open 24 hours. It mostly looked kind of like a New York deli where, like, it had a lot of bagel flavors, but they microwaved I asked for the bagel toasted, and they, like, didn't have a normal bagel toaster, and it was incredibly cheap. It was like 30 pence or something like that. I mean, it was, which is like 50 US cents. But I was just, I don't know. I was really frustrated by it. There are some good bagels, but they're not New York style bagels. I used to do delivery for this company that does Montreal style bagels here. And I think Montreal style bagels in Portland are the only decent ones that I have found. Latitude says, are there no fireflies on the West Coast? No, we don't have fireflies, at least in Portland. I'm assuming they must have them down in, like, Southern California. Pretty much, if there's not thunderstorms, there's not fireflies, as far as I understand. And we have thunderstorms extremely infrequently here, like, once every couple years we may have a thunderstorm. So I think you need the lightning to get the lightning bugs. We didn't call them fireflies where I'm from. We called them lightning bugs. So we don't have thunderstorms. Yeah, no, it rains all the time. It rains for like 9 months, but it's like a slow drizzle most of the time, and no lightning. So yeah, no, it's like, and that's the big thing when people move out here from, especially like the Midwest and the South, is that they don't grasp that even though it does rain all the time in the Pacific Northwest, the rain is like sad. It's just kind of pissing on you. It's not like the torrential rains generally that you experience when it does rain in the South US, and, like, you know, it's definitely not like the monsoons that you experience in the Southwest. We really rarely get, like, a proper rainstorm. So, yeah, ironically, like, Portland is not very good at stormwater management, despite the fact that it rains for 9 months a year. And that's because we rarely get, like, really epic volumes of rain. We get a lot of rain all the time spread out. So it's more about days of rain than actual rainfall. Seattle actually gets, like, less rainfall than the city I'm from in the Midwest, which I would not describe as rainy. So it just gets more days of rain. So rural says we have them once every couple days. Yeah, it's very different. It's just a different bioregion, you know? Bioregions have good and bad things. I would say that Portland's climate is very similar to London's climate. Like, the weather can change very frequently. It doesn't get hot very often. Like, the fact that it's like 100 degrees today, Portland kind of starts to fall apart because most people don't have air conditioning. Although more people got air conditioning in the past couple of years, because with climate change, we've been having more of these, like, super hot weeks. And the other thing is that we always have a fire season, and fire season doesn't tend to affect the cities, but it will, like, every other year. Fire season will affect the cities, and the smoke will be really bad, and having an air conditioner is a way to cool your house without having the windows open, which if you have to have the windows closed up like all the time, like even at night, because of the bad air quality, then you can really have a lot of issues. Anyway, Christy said, I asked for a toasted bagel in Santiago, Chile one time, and they thought I was absolutely insane. Yeah, the bagel I had, I don't know if I finished my story about that bagel. Besides, like, the fact that they, like, put it in a microwave, which I was, like, deeply offended by, it was just not good. Like, and it was very sad to me because a lot of locals were like, oh, yeah, this is the place to go. And, like, I had searched online, like, you know, what is the best bagels in London? And it was in a traditionally Jewish neighborhood, and which normally is a good sign for a bagel store. It had been like continuously making bagels for like 100 years or something, which is not that old in London, but it's like I was like, surely this is gonna be the place. But it was like more like a normal, like it didn't seem like bagels were really, despite the place was called Bagels, and yet I don't know, it was very sad about it. Summer storms are the only thing I miss about Wisconsin. Yeah, I used to ask for, when my folks still live out in the Midwest, I would ask them for, like, them to film on their porch, like, when thunderstorms happen, because I just, like, missed them so much. I've accepted our lack of thunderstorms, but that doesn't mean I don't get really, really excited on the rare occasion that we have them. Diopson on the forums has reliably informed me there are no fireflies in California. Oh, okay. I assumed there would be, but like in the like areas that have, well, one, the areas that have thunderstorms, and because not the Cascadia bioregion, so obviously like Northern California wouldn't have it because they have almost the same weather as us. And then I don't know, I assume like the desert part of California, but a little sad about that, but Emily says, I have had the same, this is the best version of the cuisine disappointment with, like, every Southern food place since I moved. Yeah, I'm sorry to say that. Like, I think that's one of the things that's, like, hard to get in Portland. It's challenging to get good Chinese food in Portland, although I now live in the neighborhood that has, like, the original Chinese restaurant in Portland, and the other place that I think is pretty good. But, like, good Chinese takeout is not super abundant. Good Indian food in Portland is like out in the suburbs. So yeah, I'm not really surprised that the southern food in California is not very good. So no fireflies in LA. Okay, all right. Well, we have learned the whole West Coast apparently doesn't have fireflies. Does anybody else call them lightning bugs? Like folks that are from places with them? Because we called them lightning bugs. Claire says, I don't think lightning bugs actually have anything to do with lightning. No, I am almost positive they do. I think it has something to do with nitrogen cycles. Because lightning has a ton of nitrogen in it. And I think that's actually part of the reason that lightning bugs have it. I say this with I sound a lot more confident than I am, but I'm like very convinced they have to do with nitrogen cycles, and that's what they are called, lightning bugs. Rural says they are lightning bugs here. Well, yeah, I'm from close to Appalachia, so that's not really surprising that I also did call them. Okay, Emily also called them lightning bugs growing up. Christy called them both, and you're from Vermont. Fireflies always sounded like the more like whimsical grown-up way of referring to lightning bugs. I don't know why. Like firefly sounded like something that was in like a fairy princess sort of thing. German calls them literally translated glow wormlets. Wait, hold on. Can you write that in German for me? Because I'm learning. I apparently don't know the word for wormlets in German, and glow is just glau, right? Okay, I need you to write this. I'm so curious about it. That's beautiful.
Is not an English word. Wormlet is German.
Wormlet is a German word?
Well,
Glühwürmchen. I love it. Glühwürmchen. This makes me so happy. That's great. I like to think of Chen as a way of subbing in like at the end of words also like ini, which makes things tiny, you know? So I like the idea that it's Wormini. Glow Wormini. Spark farters. That's really great. Rural, who I'm pretty sure is actually a scientist, says I don't imagine there's much science behind the naming of lightning bugs. I'm offended, and I have decided it has to do with the nitrogen cycle, and I'm very convinced. Denise, hello, welcome. We are discussing disappointing bagels around the world and the existence of lightning bugs, and whether or not lightning bugs have anything to do whatsoever with nitrogen cycles. I'm very convinced lightning bugs have to do with lightning. So yes, Denise, do you have fireflies / lightning bugs where you live, or Glühwürmchen, which is what the German name is? That makes me so happy. Okay. Yeah, I guess this diminutive form of worm. I don't know the word for worm. I guess that's just not a vocab that was necessary in my daily life. Maybe if I'd been doing vermiculture. Oh, are we changing to Dora with the traffic report right now? Are we switching to it? Oh, she's over there. Okay. Denise has lightning bugs, apparently. We don't have them on the West Coast, and I was convinced that they existed, places that have, or deserts that have lightning, but apparently not. So, yep, that's it. Dora is very tired. Okay, well, should we talk about some finance things before I eat this donut? I could also discuss the worst falafel I've ever had. So, I make it my goal to try falafel in every country that I go to. And I had falafel in Venice, which was largely because I was in Venice for Carnival a bunch of years ago, and I didn't have a lot of money, and also, like, Venice during Carnival is, like, even more touristy than Venice normally, and I was staying with people, so I had, like, access to their kitchen and everything, but there aren't, like, a lot of grocery stores in Venice. Like, it's essentially, like, it's a real city that is essentially Disneyland, but, like, Disneyland on water that's kind of sinking, that also is, like, 2,000 years old. Older than that, way older than 2000. It existed way before CE started. Anyway, Venice, all of the food is extremely touristy. It's like being kind of in a Disneyland park where all of the theme for the food, rather than being like what restaurant you're in, is that every restaurant has the same theme, which is, you are in Italy, you will eat the Italian food. So it's all, like, very traditional Italian seafood, and, like, this very specific Venetian menu, which is not very vegan friendly, and certainly is not budget friendly, because it's very much meant for tourists that are coming. So I'd been endeavoring to find, like, vegan places to eat. I'd been eating at a lot of grocery stores. And I was out super late with my host. My host was Venetian, just like 8th generation Venetian. And she took me to, like, the party of Venetians during Carnival, because Carnival, everybody in Venice is working their butts off, because they all work in tourism and, like, as entertainers. And so they have, like, a party kind of at the end of Carnival that's on the water that is more like a Halloween party. So Carnival is where you dress up in these very, like, you know, traditional Venetian outfits as though you're going to court, and you, like, you know, these gorgeous masks and everything, and you just walk around. But the local Venetians, they dress up like it's properly Halloween. Like, they wear, like, funny costumes. The folks I was with were dressed as IKEA lamps. And, like, they have a, like, weird, like, floating party. I mean, everything in Venice is floating, technically, but this was, like, a floating warehouse party, and it was very clear that it was, like, not meant to be a place that people were at. And I was out till, like, 4 a.m. with my host, and she was, like, it was, like, a friend party, but she was, like, bartending and helping, but she was Italian, so she was wearing, like, 6-inch heels despite being out in Venice, which is cobblestones, and you also like can't catch a ride home. Like you in Venice, you have to walk to get anywhere, and you have to walk up and down stairs to get anywhere. And there are like taxis on the water. There's like public buses that are ferries on the water. But that doesn't help you because you still then have to get to the end and walk. The folks I was staying with, one of them had torn their ACL and was in a like in a full like leg kind of, stabilization device, and he had just not left the house for like 6 weeks because it is like the least accessible city. People also live very long there, and the average age of a Venetian resident is like 80 or something because all the young people leave for jobs because there aren't a lot of jobs in Venice. And he was just like, I can't go anywhere. I can't go up and down stairs. And so the maximum length he could go anyway, once he went down the 4 flights of stairs in his like flat in Venice, would be to get out to the cobblestones and try to navigate with crutches. And he could get to like the next set of stairs, which would be like half a block. So, it was definitely very interesting. Latitude says, hi, my house is sinking in the into the ocean. Can I have a discount on rent? So that's the other very interesting thing, is that Venice, almost all of the housing is family owned, and it's been held in the family for generations and generations. And a lot of it is literally unoccupied, because it's held in these families as these, most of it is kind of like townhouse style. So you'll be like a stacked kind of thing, and you'll own like a flat inside of these buildings. But everybody has to leave to go to the mainland for jobs because the economy is entirely based around tourism, and there just isn't enough tourism jobs for like the folks that stay there. The people that also, like, you're Venetian and you're only Venetian. If you're from the rest of Italy and you move there, you'll never be Venetian, no matter how long you've been there. It's like you have to be able to trace your family in Venice back to like 200 CE to be considered Venetian. It's very fascinating. Anyway, so there's very few renter-occupied dwellings in Venice because while there are a ton of Airbnbs, like everybody's like renting it out as Airbnbs or like vacation rentals and stuff like that, there are very, like, most of the long-term residents of Venice are living owner-occupied because there aren't enough jobs for the people there. But that's also part of the reason that there's so many, like, older people there, because a lot of people in Venice would, like, go to the mainland and work, and then they return to their, like, ancestral home. So, Amanda says, also owning there is super expensive because there are a ton of taxes and fees for maintaining and renovating old buildings. That doesn't in any way sound surprising to me. I don't understand how that city is, like, standing. I had an endpoint to this story that was not devolving into the socioeconomic demographics of tax systems in Venice. Anyway, I found a falafel in this, like, tiny kind of convenience store, and they, like, once again, they microwaved the falafel balls, and they clearly came out of, like, the freezer. Like, they didn't make the falafel there, and it was the worst falafel of my life. But it was only like €7 for dinner as opposed to like €40 anywhere else. So I ate it, but that was the worst falafel I've had. And I kind of feel bad because I didn't have any other falafel anywhere else in Italy. And I feel like Venice was like a bad city to try to make my one falafel happen in the country. So next time I go to Italy, if it happens again, I will do that. Emily says, I'm so curious what it's like to run a 7-Eleven in Venice. Yeah, it wasn't like quite a 7-Eleven, but it was a convenience store. I think the thing is, like, I saw very few brand name stuff, and the brand name stuff that I did see, like, of course, where there be tourists, there will be a Starbucks. They were all, like, subject to all these kind of historical regulations, and so they wouldn't appear branded the same way that you would see them elsewhere. So if there was a 7-Eleven, it would be in a building that's, like, 800 years old or something, and on the water, and it would be, like, kind of branded in that way. Similar to, like, one of the prettiest Starbucks I ever went to in my life was in Vienna, and it was like right next to the palace, and it was on this historical block where it had previously been apartments from the palace, And so it was like this gorgeous Starbucks, but because of all the historical regulations, they couldn't really brand it as a Starbucks. I went there mainly because it was pouring rain, and I happened to be in Vienna during Easter Monday, and so nothing was open except the palace. So I went on a tour of the palace because there was nothing else to do on Easter Monday, and everything was closed, and so the Starbucks was open. So anyway, there's some fun stories. That was my disappointing falafel. Should we talk about finances? I mean, we're talking about Venice, so... Yeah, ye old 7-Eleven. I feel like that would be very normal for Venice. The kitten is so cute. She's so cute. So, what I was going to talk about. So, last week, the live stream had a plan, and then 2 hours before, Trump made all these executive orders about money, and so I ended up, like, changing the live stream to kind of talk about them. As I mentioned, a lot of things were very unclear. A lot of the executive orders / memorandums that he passed, it was, like, not positive he was allowed to do a bunch of the stuff that he did. So, we have a lot more information now. So, the core components of these things, there were 4 things that he did. One was the payroll tax holiday. One was the extension of the extra money for unemployment, although instead of being $600, he said it was going to be $400. One was student loans, which was essentially extending the current thing for student loans. And the last one had to do with federally controlled housing and trying not to have evictions. So, first one about the federal evictions, it was essentially a note to tell the HUD to try to figure out how to not do that, and it doesn't seem to be enforceable. And so people are still, that are in federally funded or federally controlled housing, are still very much at risk of eviction. It didn't really protect anybody. Backwards from that, student loan thing seems locked in. Originally, the 0% interest rate and permanent kind of deferral that they had through was only running through October 15th. It's now extended out to the end of the year. So if you've been utilizing those, then you get it. It's going to be great if you're trying to pay down principal right now or something. They are not accruing interest right now if you've got federal student loans, and that's going to go through the end of the year. So I would love it if it was no interest on student loans ever again, but no, we only got through the end of 2020, and it's existing student loans, so... New ones that you take out, they aren't accruing interest, but, like, they're not switched to a 0% interest rate. It's annoying. Now, the 2 complicated ones that were, like, both the ones that everybody wanted the most, but the ones that I think people were most suspicious that Trump could accomplish, largely because they both involve spending. So the unemployment one is a really big deal. As we talked about last week, Rural had brought up if your state is broke, the way that the executive order was written was that states were expected to chip in 25% of that extra $400 a week. And they would only get the money if they had $100 a week for everyone on unemployment. There was massive protests by governors of both parties of states that said straight up, no, that we can't do that. Like, state budgets have gotten hammered. A lot of states don't even have the money to get masks for teachers to reopen schools. They're not going to be able to make extra $100 a week materialize for everyone on unemployment. And so what it looks like is actually... the extra $300 a week will appear, and people that are in the system that are currently receiving pandemic unemployment assistance or regular unemployment insurance will get the extra $300 a week. States, if they want to, could chuck in an extra $100 a week. The big problem with that is, of course, that most states don't have the $100 a week. So it seems very unlikely. Thus far, we haven't heard of a single state that says they're going to check in the extra $100 a week. And so most likely what Trump did is he essentially cut the extra $600 a week in half to $300 a week. That would be better than nothing. However, there are 2 huge caveats. One, states have no idea how they're going to implement this. making changes to the unemployment system, even the states that are like best equipped and the most modernized, said that most likely it would take them at least a month to implement it. It may actually take months to implement it. The other key element about this is that, well, actually there's a third caveat. One is that for some reason, if you're getting less than $100 a week in unemployment, so the worst affected workers, they don't qualify for the extra $300 a week, which is, I'm just so frustrated by this. So that means that low-income workers, which one of the analysis shows that 76% of the workers that are currently receiving less than $100 a week of unemployment benefits are women. And those are going to be the worst affected people, and they're not going to get the extra $300 a week. It seems weird and arbitrary and frustrating. The reason that it is like kind of written this way, this like exclusion, I believe is because they want the states that essentially the way they fix that $100 that the states were expected to chuck in is they said whatever the states are already giving towards unemployment counts towards that $100. So it doesn't have to be another $100 on top. However, folks that are getting pandemic unemployment assistance, which is entirely funded by the federal government and not funded by the states, do qualify for the extra $300 a week. So it is only going to hurt low-income people in states with low minimum amounts that are the people that are most affected overall by this crisis, by the problems in the unemployment system, and they're not going to get the extra $300 a week. So that was very frustrating. The argument that the folks that, wouldn't qualify for it is entirely because it needs to be $100 a week chucked in by the states doesn't make sense, because the extra $300 a week counts for people receiving pandemic unemployment assistance, which is 100% federally funded. So super frustrating. The other thing is the whole thing is capped at $44 billion. And $44 billion for this program will likely run out in 5 to 6 weeks. So what might happen is that states that are able to implement it quickly might get the money first, and then it just entirely runs out. 5 to 6 weeks is not very long in the context of unemployment insurance during the largest amount of unemployment that we've ever seen in American history, as long as we've been keeping records on unemployment. So it's extremely frustrating. So those are kind of the key elements. The people that are most affected are not going to get the extra $300 a week. It's going to take forever to get it. There's still a ton of people whose benefits have stopped because pandemic unemployment assistance, the only thing they were getting was that extra $600 a week. There are a lot of folks who just are still having issues with the unemployment system that haven't received checks. And there are so many issues across the board. And then the other thing is that this extra money is going to run out based on current spending, 5 to 6 weeks. And we don't know if it's going to kind of create a race to get it from the states. The states' unemployment systems are, quite frankly, being like, please be realistic. We are not going to have this done any faster than a month. That was the state that has kind of one of the more modernized unemployment systems, that it's going to take a month to even get that extra $300 a week to people. So that's what's happening with unemployment. What were the other things he passed? So he passed the extra money for unemployment. Oh, payroll tax holiday, title of this video. So last week I said, hey, I don't think you're going to have to repay it because it would likely get forgiven, but we don't really know, and I wouldn't say you to plan on not getting it forgiven. So it appears to only be that 6.8%. So you would be getting, essentially taking home an extra 6.8%. However, it does stand, the president has authority to do the payroll tax holiday, but he doesn't have authority to forgive it. So that seems to be all kind of the legal thoughts around this, is that this is probably one of the ones that's most likely to really happen. However, the employers It's still, one, unclear if they have to repay it, and it's supposed to start from September 1st. Originally, it was written so that it would be retroactive to August 1st, but now it looks like it's going to start September 1st and run through the end of the year. It obviously, one, only affects you if you already are paying Social Security taxes through your job. So if you are someone who is receiving SSDI or SSI and are not paying your Social Security taxes through your check, and or if you're getting unemployment, in most states they do not take Social Security taxes out of it. So it is the kind of general thought around here is they're kind of leaving it up to employers, and most employers are just surveying workers about whether or not they want it. They are given kind of the discretion of how they want to get that money back from people and when. Would it be done all in one paycheck at the end of the year? That doesn't sound very great. Would it be attempted to be done at tax time? The only previous time that we've had in recent memory where we've had a payroll tax holiday was during the recession in 2011. And what they did is they kind of extended the tax cuts that happened under Bush like longer to try to get people more money. But that was forgiven. So we don't actually have any clear idea like what is going to happen. Most employers, it seems like, are going to opt out of just doing this. So, the real question is, there's still no clarity on what about people like me that are self-employed that usually end up paying, one, double the amount. We pay both the employer and the employee portion of Social Security taxes. Are we not going to owe it? Are we going to owe less when we file? Because normally we pay with quarterly taxes and we pay with the rest of our income tax. So, it's super frustrating. So, yeah, that's pretty much kind of the basics of what's happening with the payroll tax holiday, is that it's still a mess. And you may get it or you may not in your paycheck, and it largely comes down to your payroll provider or your HR and their choice to do that. And we don't know if you're going to have to pay it back. So I somehow have less clarity than last week on the payroll tax holiday. The good news is that we're all in the same camp. People that do this all day, like payroll tax providers or payroll providers, that all they do is like figure out how to take taxes out of paychecks, they also don't have clarity around it. So, and it's unclear if Congress would extend it, so it sounds like a mess. Blood from a turnip. Blood from a turnip trying to get money from the states. And then there was a very long discussion about blood from a turnip as a phrase. That's great. And Amanda has now joined us from the drive-through line at Wendy's. Well, what you missed is we discussed if you call them lightning bugs or fireflies and if you have them in your region. And if you happen to know if they are called lightning bugs because they are connected to lightning, because I'm still convinced they are. So, I missed part of the live stream and caught up on the chat, but not the video, and I have no idea what Lily is saying. The turnip for the blood or related to the payroll tax holiday? Because the payroll tax holiday is a mess. And that's all you really need to know. And unemployment is slightly better. Slightly better. It's better in that, like, more people are going to get it, but it's going to be a mess. So. Okay. Well, those are the financy things that we have. Should we eat a donut now? Amanda says they are lightning bugs because they light up. Well, at least according to Nanny anyways. I think they're lightning bugs because of the nitrogen cycle and that they only occur in places that have lightning. And I'm convinced of this. Should we eat the donut that Rural is completely unimpressed with? Well, Joshua says it's not connected to lightning, it's the male mating call, but that doesn't mean that it's not connected to lightning. It still doesn't. So this is the weird bagel donut. It's so weird. It's got like cream cheese on the end. Can you see that? And then it's got like sesame seeds and stuff. All right. Should I... What? How do I eat this? Oh, I'm so confused. Oh, my brain can't process this. It tastes like a donut on the inside, but then it has all the... Oh, it's weird. Oh, there's cream cheese in the middle, too. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's happening. Aaron is taking a bite of it because it doesn't have sugar in it, so. Would I buy again? No.
It's weird.
It's like a bad bagel and a bad donut. The novelty is the only appeal of this. No, normally I love their donuts. Like, all of the elements are quality. Like, the presentation looks like a bagel. The individual components are fine. Ugh, I don't know. Yeah, it's like... No. Please stop. You look like you're in pain. It doesn't taste bad. It just tastes confusing. Amanda says, I feel like the donut existential crisis fits the financial content of today's stream. It's so... Latitude says, it's not bad, it's just wrong. Yes! That's correct! It's like... They did a great job with the donut for the concept of what it is, but the concept is a problem. Yeah, real 2020 donut. No, it would only be a real 2020 donut if it was, like, also on fire. I will also say I let patrons, Personal Finance Society, I let them vote, and when I went to get it this morning, this was tied with the salted pretzel donut, which ended up leading later in the day, but when I went to get this, it was tied. So I am very excited to try the salted pretzel donut because it seems less disturbing. That one has chocolate drizzled on it. Okay, I'm done. I'm gonna have some tea. My mouth tastes like I ate a bagel. Like it has I have like sesame seeds and garlic and everything in my mouth, but oh. Brianna asked what donut shop this is from. I get all my donuts from Dough Donuts in Portland. It's a vegan donut. I vote for salted pretzel. That actually sounds good in donut form. Yeah, I also think, like, the existence of chocolate kind of... It's not that I dislike savory donuts. It's... yeah. I'm feeling less bad because they had a savory donut that I ended up not trying in, like, the last round of seasonal flavors that was, like, soy rizo or something. It looked... I was like, I don't think I'm going to enjoy that, so I didn't try it on a stream. I like bagels, and I like donuts, so I was like, sure, I'll like it. But no, it is an existential crisis of a donut. Um, it's a good donut, but I'm just very upset. Yeah, that's how I feel. I don't know. Should we end the stream? How people tell me what you're looking forward to this week. We've discussed the mess that is. Oh, I wanted to talk about A levels and GCSEs in the UK. Are people interested in that? It's kind of fascinating what's going on. And it yeah. So essentially, does everybody know what A levels and GCSE are? They are the exams that you take in the UK. They're the owls and the newts if you've read Harry Potter and don't know about British higher education. So GCSEs are what you take at like around 16 years old, and they get you to college, which is not university. So college is sort of your last 2 years, and you'll take less subjects usually in college. And then for those, you will take your A levels. And you can leave after your GCSEs if you want. Some people like opt out after that and they go do like vocational school or something like that instead of their A levels. But A levels are required to get into university, some level of A levels generally. And it's quite common. You usually take those exams in the spring. The whole country takes them on the same day, and they are used in conjunction with your regular grades as part of what gets you into university. And quite often, British universities will give someone what's called a conditional offer, which says, like, you have, like, pending this A-level result, you will be able to attend our college. So you've got a conditional offer of acceptance. We will let you in, as long as you score, you pass certain A levels or you get a certain grade on your A levels. And because university acceptance usually happens before the A levels happen. Well, A levels were canceled, as were GCSEs, because putting a bunch of students in a room during lockdown to all take a test was impossible. And it's a very highly regulated test, so they were not going to do it from home. Everything has to be proctored and everything. So instead what they did is they had people, and A-levels and GCSEs are huge. I mean, they're these exams are a large part of the British school experience. And there's other, I keep saying the British, but there's other countries that use GCSEs and A-levels. Scotland does as well. Obviously it's part of the United Kingdom. And then Ireland, I believe, uses it in a slightly modified version. Obviously, Northern Ireland as a country. And then there's a lot of other former British colonies that use similar systems. So India has kind of a similar system for their exams. But particularly who was affected was just the United Kingdom. So Scotland and England. And essentially what they said was... we are going to have all of your teachers evaluate your grade and kind of predict what you would have gotten on your A levels and your GCSEs. And then they had this company come in with a proprietary algorithm off Qual and get awarded this massive contract for a proprietary algorithm they built to predict what the A-level exam grades were going to be based on this whole algorithm. And 40% of A-level grades were downgraded by this algorithm. So what the teachers had said based on their experience working with the student, they had to rank all their students and kind of predict what they would get on the exam based on, teachers' appraisals. 40% of the grades were downgraded. And that's quite a lot to have a computer downgrade people's exams. And what also happened was a lot of people had conditional offers that were contingent on an A-level grade that were seeing their grade levels drop possibly even by 2 grade levels, and they no longer were qualified to get into Oxbridge, which is Oxford and Cambridge, or whatever university they were going to go to. But Oxford and Cambridge is a huge deal because that determines your whole... If you get into Oxford and Cambridge, you are set in a lot of ways, in the UK. Well, really, really big problem was that the proprietary algorithm downgraded people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds at a much bigger rate than it did people from non-disadvantaged backgrounds. And comprehensives, which are public schools, what we would call public schools in the States, although it's confusing because public and private is switched there, but comprehensive schools versus like magnet private schools that rich kids go to generally, they had less grades downgraded, and they actually got more people that got the equivalent of an A plus versus, which is an A star, over an A from previous years. And the algorithm essentially, the way that it did it is like one of the key factors. So one, they accepted this contract on contingent that their algorithm stayed proprietary and private. So people aren't even able to look at why the fact this happened. But they have like way more people that were downgraded, but in comprehensive schools versus private schools. And one of the reasons this happened was that it tended to downgrade people less if they were in more rare subjects, so something like Latin, and they had less people in their class, which tend to be offered at fancy private schools and less often are offered at the standard comprehensive schools. And so super frustrating, essentially, what happened with this. And Oxford and Cambridge, like, there's been huge protests going on for both A-levels and GCSEs. The A-level exams came out earlier. GCSEs are coming out this week, but it looks like 70% of grades were downgraded compared to the 40% of the A-levels. It's going to be an even greater proportion of probably folks from disadvantaged backgrounds, because there is a higher proportion of the country and kids from comprehensive schools taking GCSEs, because obviously, like I said, a lot of kids will opt out of their A-levels and go on to other kinds of schooling, and so there's just more people taking GCSEs, and a higher percentage of them come from disadvantaged backgrounds. So they had a lot of protests. My zip code should not determine my grades. Oxford and Cambridge initially had sent out a letter that essentially said, like, you may have to wait a year to attend Oxbridge if you had a conditional offer and your grade got downgraded. And they just retracted that and essentially said, like, you're fine, we're going to ignore the A-level grades. Scotland had the same problem. They used the same algorithm, but Scotland, the Minister of Education faced a vote of no confidence after 188,000 tests were downgraded in, exam results were downgraded in Scotland, and they literally just chucked all the algorithm grades in Scotland. So there is a possibility that England is going to do the same thing and is going to actually just, like, knock them all back. I don't actually know what's happening with Northern Ireland right now, because it was all of the UK that used this off-qual database. So, oh, yes, SK said they also want to charge 110 Great British pounds or so to challenge the results. Guess who is least likely to afford that gamble? Yes, so that was the original thing that they wanted to do. So if you wanted to appeal the A-levels by, you were able to use mock exams to show that you had, like, if you had taken a mock exam that you got a grade, or they were going to allow people to, like, use past work if they didn't have a mock exam. Initially, they were going to charge 110 pounds, which is like $150, which kids from lower income backgrounds are not going to have their families be able to afford that in this economy. Also, just going to mention that the UK had the greatest recession they've ever had on record this week. They officially have the largest retraction in their economy of any economy thus far that we know about. So that's cool. However, they did say appeals will be free now. So as of, I think this morning here, so it would be today, in the UK, Minister of Education, who may or may not just get kicked out of his job at this point, said the appeals are going to be free. So it's just a mess. So that's essentially what's happening. So that's what's going on with A-levels and GCSEs. Just another way in which 2020 is effed. Like this donut. I hate this so much. I hate it. I'm gonna finish it because I would feel bad not finishing it. But Rural says someone needs to disband that company and maybe not try again. I agree. That's the really screwed up thing, is that, like, they were offered help from, like, the, like, public academy of statisticians and stuff in building the algorithm, and they, like, refused it, and they also won't show it to anyone, despite the fact that, like, it's a big to-do, so, yeah. Amanda says you'll feel worse if you do finish it. I mean, yeah, that's an interesting point. I'm so not, I want to emphasize, it's good for what it is. I just cannot handle the cognitive dissonance of it tastes exactly like a bagel, but then it has, like, the fluffy donut. It feels wrong. Yeah, it's like that donut. Back to the drawing board. Sarah says, and students were told energy should be channeled into how each young person can progress swiftly with what they have been awarded by the algorithm. Yeah, that's just crap. It's so frustrating that they don't seem to understand, like, A-levels and GCSEs determine so much of your future as far as what universities are open to you, what careers are open to you. Like, it's such a big deal. And yeah. Whew. If I finish the donut, please do it off camera. It's good for what it is, but it is a mistake. Yes, I agree. Yeah. SK said they refused to be helped by the RSS, the Royal Statistical Society, because they didn't agree to sign an NDA on faults. Cool. Yeah, it all is just a mess. So, I think they let the kids who missed it this year take it next year and fuck their algorithm. Yeah, I mean, I think that was the big thing, is a lot of these kids are supposed to start university, like, in a month. And they are starting university on these conditional offers, conditional on A-level exams, that they, like, now don't have those grades, despite the fact that it seems very reasonable to assume they have. So I also have no idea how they're going to do that many appeals. Like, they say they're doing free appeals, but, like, how are they possibly going to appeal everybody before the start of school in the UK, like September 13th or whatever? So SK says the chief privacy officer for the UK, who is now remote working from Canada for some reason, somehow thinks the GPDR does not apply and people may be allowed to look into details in 5 years. Interesting. Weird. So wait, look into the details of the algorithm or look into details for individual students? Because I would be very curious. Is GPDR... Is it contingent? Is it part of EEA? Does anybody know? Is it part of the European Economic Area or the EU? Or is GPDR, like, was it signed by the countries individually rather than being contingent on being part of the EU? Because I'm actually really curious if the UK is, like, technically not bound when they exit the EU. Emily says, my understanding it was EU specific. Yeah, but it's definitely EU, not EEA. Right, it's definitely not EEA because Iceland is not part of the EU, but is part of the EEA and does not have GPDR as far as I understand. So it must be EU. I don't know. So they can look into their individual ones, but looking into details in 5 years won't help kids getting into college. Yeah. Poof. So when they leave, they can do whatever. I don't know if maybe GPDR is one of those things that they would would be included in the exit package. I listen to this podcast called Brexit Cast, and it is produced by the BBC. And one of the things they regularly do is they have people that are involved in, like, they bring on people that are working on the negotiations for Brexit. And they read, like, the individual passages of the various, like, documents that they have for negotiating. And it's very fascinating because the level of stuff that they have to negotiate down to, like, the, rights about, like, the trade of certain kinds of shellfish. Like, there was just so much that was, like, comprehensively covered by the EU and the EEA that is, like, super fascinating. So, yeah, I wonder if they could also choose to opt into GPDR, I wonder, too, but I don't know. I wonder if that means Privacy Shield is still valid in the UK. Well, so one thing I will say is one thing that at least I know from my perspective as, like, a business owner that had to comply with GPDR is that the way it's written is if any EU citizens are, like, accessing your stuff, then you have to be compliant with GPDR. And obviously they have a bunch of EU citizens who live in the UK. So I don't know. I mean, GPDR is a very complicated thing. But, like, I had to be compliant as a business owner with GPDR because any European citizen, whether or not they're in the EU, qualifies for, like, the individual parts of GPDR. So, yeah. Rural says, well, if the infection rates keep rising in Europe, school probably won't start in September anyway. I think almost all the universities have gone remote, at least for this semester. Some of them have pushed their start date out till October. I'm, like, weirdly aware of the UK's university schedules right now because I am considering applying this fall for next year. And so I've been on a lot of university websites, and most of them have gone remote. I know Oxford and Cambridge have gone remote for the entire year. So I don't know if the rising infection rate will necessarily affect it's starting. So in the same way that, like, maybe if they had to wait and do a resit for their exam for their A-levels, I mean, I think it's crap to get downgraded by the algorithm when you already thought your grade was going to be one thing. But, like, if they did have to resit, I mean, do you really want to attend Oxford and Cambridge or, like, university in the UK where they have a very, like, university is very kind of, it's similar to the American university, is very, like, traditional. Would you really want to have your freshman year be remote? I don't know. It's very, like, there's a social aspect to university in the UK in the same way that there is here, that there's, like less so in Germany, for example. Like, very few people live on campus. There's not really dorms. There's not, like, societies and stuff like that. But also school is, like, 300 euros a year. So, yeah. Ignoring that the US doesn't have equivalent privacy laws is something backed by big commercial interest. UK only, not so much. Yeah, I'm fascinated if they are going to exit the GPDR. Does that have a, like, influence on does that have an influence on Brexit for the corporations that have kind of left and have moved over to France or Germany? Like, most of them have moved to Germany because a lot of the, like, big financial institutions that were headquartered in London had, like, moved to their German headquarters. Most of them, like, had both, and had, like, been kind of, like, flighting the city. But if they have the advantage of being, like, staying located in the city and not having to observe GPDR, I don't know, very interesting. Latitude says 300 euros a year. Cries and 60K student loan debt. Yeah, well, if you want to go abroad for school, I mean, that's one of the reasons I studied abroad in Germany, is that it cost me nothing. But you can go attend as an international student and it's still free in Germany. It's 300 euros a year and that includes your transit pass. Like, it's like tuition free for international students. That's true in Germany. it's very low tuition in France, but it's much harder to find English-speaking programs in France. So unless you're confident enough to do academic work in French, it's harder. But there are a lot of English programs in Germany. There's a lot of English programs in Copenhagen, Amsterdam, and Vienna. And Prague is, like, incredibly cheap for school for foreigners as well. Like, I could get an MBA for, like, 500 euros or something ridiculous. Like, the equivalent of 500 euros, because they don't actually use euros in Czechia, but yeah. Amanda, you don't need to be a German to go to school in Germany. So, yeah, that's for international, including American. Like, it's not even just EU. Claire says, my sister had studied abroad in Belgium and plenty was in English. Yeah, you have to, like, if you're hoping to go for, like, all of school, you need to find a program that at the very least you can complete, like, entirely in. But Amanda says, can you do remote programs in Germany? I mean, this year, maybe. But the remote programs wasn't, like, very common when I was there. Like, yeah. I think the schools that would be remote or online would be private colleges, and private colleges are not subject to the same rules. So they're still going to be cheaper than most American, even, like, public universities. But they are, obviously they are, they're not bound by the same laws around regulation. But Latitude says, France would be difficult, but very romantic. Yeah, France, I mean, you can find programs in English in France. There's just, like, less of them, and they're quite cheap, so. Claire says, I don't know how much it costs, though. I guarantee it costs less than a U.S. education. That's the thing, so, yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm considering going abroad for grad school, but I also don't need grad school, so that's the other problem. I just kind of want to live abroad again, and grad school's a good excuse for it. But yeah, it's like you don't have to take out debt. The UK is different. It's because they have a much more they're similar to the US because they have kind of like this whole thing built up around their universities. They're a lot more expensive than anywhere else in Europe. Not that they're in Europe anymore, but they're a lot more expensive than anywhere in Europe. However, they're still like half or a third of the price in the US. And they similar to American universities, the way they balance their budget is they let in more international students. And international students are usually full pay because they don't have financial aid unless they get financial aid from their universities. So Latitude says, the big problem is I have no dollars to live in a different country. Yeah, that's the thing for me is that I'm saving up so that I can live in London, and then yeah. I'm going to get a second degree in data science instead of graduating next semester, so I recommend doing that. Just get more bachelor's degrees. Definitely don't want to go back to doing my bachelor's in any way, shape, or form. I mean, it took me like 7 years to even go to college after I dropped out of high school, so there's that. So, yeah, definitely no. But maybe a professional grad program I would consider. But it's mostly so I can live in London. I could spend a lot less if I was willing to go back to Germany or to a different country. I don't know, Vienna's looking pretty attractive. Vienna's one of those countries that's like surprisingly expensive to visit, but it has a very low cost of living to actually live there. So, or one of those countries. Vienna's one of those cities. Yeah, I was like surprised at how expensive it was to visit, but like the actual cost of living is quite low. It just has a lot of tourists, so the cost of staying there is high. But 5 years for my BS in accounting was enough. Yeah, that's how I feel. And then you also did CPA exams and everything too, which is like more studying. So imagine being an accounting student in France. Yes, this is true. Okay, well, now we've gotten thoroughly distracted here. I just keep... It looks like a bagel, but it's not. So frustrated by this. Je suis accountant. Resist the donut thing. I like how it's been downgraded. Like, the donut has a malevolent aura. I think that's an excellent note to end the stream on. Okay. I would like everybody to tell me what thing they are looking forward to this week, and I will read a couple of those out, and we will end on that that note. Oh, I'm sorry, Amanda. I gave you flashbacks to the CPA exam. Okay, I guess I won't eat the donut, y'all. Chekhov's donut. Whew. I'm glad I have really good tea today. Speaking of which, the tea that I've previously sampled on the stream, the bourbon tea, the bourbon flavored tea, it's happening. It's happening. It's on the way. So, prefer that donut or a hypothetical blinking firefly donut? I mean, yes. Where's the firefly donut? This one's great. Is anybody doing anything fun this week? Do we still have a kitten on the screen? Because she's very cute. Oh, the camera battery died, it looks like. She's been sitting there the whole live stream. Latitude says, I am going on vacation on a lake with my girlfriend where we'll swim and eat cake. Not at the same time. That sounds excellent. All of those things sound great. Amanda says, I'm looking forward to being done with this audit I've been working on for a fucking month. And maybe not having to teach my boss to attach a file to an email. Don't ask for too much. Just, just accept the attaching file to email. I have this ticket that I've been working on for like over a month and a half that will just not end. So I feel you on the audit that you've been working on for a month. Rural is harvesting more elderberries. That's the more badass thing anybody said they're doing this week. What do elderberries taste like? I'm sure we have them here because we have like all the berries in Oregon, but I don't think I've had elderberries before. Have you had elderberries, Aaron? Are they like blackberries? Are they like strawberries? Are they like raspberries? Amanda said it took 20 minutes to teach your boss how to attach a file to an email. Oof. It's Christy's partner's B-Day this week, and I can't wait to give them a framed Bruce Springsteen album as wall art for their place. That sounds great, and also baking homemade cupcakes. That's great. It might be a bit cooler. That's good. You're gonna watch Xanadu for the first time? I've still not watched Xanadu. I know I should. So, Amanda says I'm planning to exercise and become a svelte couch potato. I finally started, like, exercising with a plan rather than, like, randomly exercising in my house and then being, like, angry that I'm not exercising the way I was before the pandemic. I finally started, like, 3 weeks ago to, like, follow a program. And it's forcing me to run, but running, while I don't love it, it's a decently efficient form of cardio. Like, you can do not that much of it and get a good cardio workout. And jump roping is also in that category, but jump roping is very hard on my hands. So I've been running and I'm following a proper running program. And then the other days I'm doing strength training and stuff. And I have to say, I kind of recommend it. I feel like I'm on a path now rather than like randomly doing exercise and then feeling guilty when I'm not. And like, yeah. I would much prefer how I was doing pre-pandemic, which is that I had built it into my life and I had fun things to do and I got a cycle to work and stuff like that, but I've accepted it now. Okay, elderberries are kind of like blackberries. Cool. Are they like red blackberries now? I'm starting to feel like maybe I've kind of seen them before. You gotta cook them or they taste like ass. What do you do? Do you make jam with them? Like if you just cook them down, do they taste good? They're tiny and round and have antiviral properties. And they are good in baked goods and tea. I've definitely seen, like, elderberries in, like, tea and stuff. Yeah, I understand the wanting to be a svelte couch potato, but being lazy. I really understand it. I cleaned the house for 2 hours today in my running clothes in order to avoid going running, despite the fact that I knew it was going to get up to 100 Fahrenheit today. And I was like, I need to go exercise early in the morning because it's like a late breaking heat here generally. And I didn't go running until 10:30, and it was 83 by then, and it was not pleasant. I run on a track just because I hate like tripping over sidewalks and like waiting for cars. So I've been running on a track at like a local park, and there was the tiniest, if this was the track, there was about the size of my thumbnail was in the shade, and I was running a lap, and then every time I was power walking in the shade just so I could have slightly longer in the shade. So it's a 1/4 mile track, so every 1/4 mile I was like, I got like 20 feet of walking in the shade, and it was really great. But it wasn't very sustainable. It's very frustrating to me because it was perfect temperature in the shade with the breeze. And I was like running faster because I think when the ambient air temperature is warmer, you usually run faster. But anyway, that was my frustration today. I didn't go out when I knew that I should in order to not be unpleasantly hot. And yet, whew. Emily says the logistics of exercise when there are no indoor gyms and it's miserably hot all day are mystifying to me. Yeah, that's the like thing. You're in LA, so it's like always hot. The here we don't have these really hot days super often. I have been working out in the morning because the afternoon has been just a little uncomfortably hot. In the winter, I was working out in my house, but I was doing it so super inconsistently, and it's not good for my mental health to not be working out. So, but I'm still working out like one quarter the amount of minutes per day that I was before without even thinking about it, because I don't have anywhere to commute to on my bike. So, all right, Latitude is leaving early. Well, you're actually leaving 15 minutes after we're supposed to end. So enjoy your peach lemonade. And Emily says, sometimes it's nice hot. Are there any fires down there right now? Like, is the air quality okay as much as it's ever okay in LA? There are different colors of elderberries. Red and black. Red is only probably safe to eat. Interesting. Oh, your office kitchen is full of candy. I miss office kitchens and snacks. Emily says, I think something's on fire, but it's mostly the heat wave. That's the problem here is like quite often the fires come with the heat waves. So, and we get heat waves so infrequently, but like the logistics of dealing with no AC with the heat wave and also the fires it's just very challenging. So, I'm very thankful that without my consent, Aaron got a portable air conditioner when I was not in the state and used the cat as an excuse. Despite the fact that I've lived in India where there were lots of cats and none of them had air conditioning and it was over 100 degrees all the time and they seem to be fine, but she's a princess, so she needs the air conditioner. All right, well, I'm going to go probably compost Chekhov's donut, and everybody have a lovely week, and everybody's supporting your choice to get the AC. I appreciate the AC now. I will say, this was years ago that it was acquired, so we don't have to use it that frequently, but it's nice. Have a good week. Stay hydrated. Wear a mask. Wash your hands. And stay safe. And I'll see you at the same time, same place. Bye.